Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another 10 p.m. with BK. I apologize for the slight delay today. Just get this. So tonight I am actually testing out one more time on this platform called Melon because the developers have informed me that they have fixed certain things. So hopefully tonight you can hear me and see me in sync. So do drop me a comment if you are watching this live now. But first things first, let me get this out of the way. We are day number 17. Woohoo! Day number 17 of a 100-day challenge. Those of you if have watched from day one, thank you very much. If you are joining us for the first time or join me for the first time, this is one of my personal challenges. I've been doing a 100-day live stream challenge. This is day number 17 of a 100-day challenge. And if we are not friends yet, obviously you may not know who I am. So this is 10 p.m. with BK. This is the funny part about not getting used to this. 10 p.m. with BK. Hi, my name is BK. And if you are not friends yet, don't be a stranger. Please leave a comment or just you can add me as a friend or follow me on any of the platforms that you're watching this from. I'm actually currently live streaming to Facebook, YouTube, as well as a Facebook page, right? So if you are seeing from any of these things, feel free to become friends. Don't be a stranger. No? And last but not least, this is something that Melon can do. So this is a quick ticker at the bottom. I think I got to get used to, this one. Yeah. So tonight, because it is about, I'm still doing one final test. So if you have watched some of the previous episodes, I'm kind of I like to tinker. I like to experiment with things. And of course, as I mentioned over the past couple of live streams, some of these episodes would be about some content about personal development or some of my stories. And some content will be about technical stuff. So we have covered some content about technical stuff like live stream gear, microphones to use, things like that, right? So for example, even things like what kind of microphones do you use? So obviously I'm using a dynamic mic here. If you do want to do that, just catch some of my earlier episodes. I go into quite a detail where I did actually a run through of all the different microphones I have and then give you a kind of a sound test of all the various ones. And also I went through some of the things about video cameras as well. So that's the part about the tech stuff. And the other part about the technical stuff that I'm kind of having fun with is experimenting with different platforms for live streaming. So all in all, I've tested Zoom, which has been very reliable. But unfortunately, personally, I find that Zoom is not really a live stream platform. It's more like a webinar and a meeting platform. So there are certain aspects about Zoom that is not ideally suited for live streaming. And then we also have tried Restream, and that has been pretty okay as well. It's been one of the more used pieces of my business because whenever I do a meeting, sometimes we do live stream it into multiple platforms, and Restream does that. But of course, Restream also does a live stream portion because they have a live studio. And also there were some issues initially, but after discussion with the developers, we have actually ironed out certain things. And I think yesterday's Restream was pretty all right. So today I'm back on Melon. So Melon is a up and coming new platform which I find has a lot of promise. It is by far obviously the newer kid on the block. And it has certain features that is quite useful for live streamers, but they're still building up, and I think they'll become a good platform over time. Except that when we tried this using this platform a few sessions ago, there was a problem with the audio sync. Okay, and so we've been working with the developers, and we kind of figure out some of the issues, and I think they have done some adjustments. So they asked me to try again tonight. So tonight I'm actually trying again, and hopefully it is much better than the other episodes. I do not know yet. I got to watch back a replay. So if you are hearing me and then not seeing my mouth move in the same timing, then again there's an out of sync issue because of the servers that they are using. So because of that, I am also going to kind of let me just see something here. Did I turn on? Yeah, it is working. Yeah, because of that, I'm also because of that, I'm also not going to go into a lot of stories or sharing of learning and so on, because I think I was a bit bummed out the other day when there was a whole minute of things that I was saying, which I kind of felt that was a very uh, heartfelt sharing, and I think would have benefited people, but yet it was because of the technical challenge that it was cut off. So I'm a bit bummed out by that. So tonight I'm not going to do any of those things first. Instead, I'm going to go through with you some of the things that you may not have known, or settings that you may not have known about Zoom that you have not adjusted. So the top 7 things you should adjust inside Zoom. So let me just quickly pull it up. Yep, and let me just start to share my screen. I think you should be able to see that as well. Let's see, I'm going to share an application window. Share. Yep, so now let's see. Let's go back to this one again. Show on stream. Yeah, okay, so you should be able to see me on one side and then the Zoom platform on the other side, right? And let's see how this goes. So again, even like something like this, I'm also testing it out for the first time, and hopefully it is pretty okay. So I am just going to walk you through some of the things that people may not actually realize that you can change within Zoom. And because Zoom is now such a popular platform, now, of course, most people are attendees inside Zoom. So if you're an attendee, there's not really a lot that you can do. But if you actually have a Zoom account, and quite a lot of people do have Zoom accounts because they are doing a lot of online meetings nowadays, I would strongly encourage you to go in and explore your settings and change certain things that may work for you, right? Now, I am going to share my use case and why I make certain changes the way I make them. And hopefully that helps you, right? So obviously, once you log in, you can go into meetings, and most of the time you start your meetings from your personal room, so which is here. And when you can actually edit some of the settings here. So I'm going to just click edit at the bottom here. And once you edit at the bottom, you can actually adjust some of the settings from a meeting to meeting basis. So I'm just going to show you this first, and I'm going to go back to the default settings on Zoom, or that controls all the other meetings and the webinars that you have, right? So once you're inside Zoom, let's say for example, one of your meetings, you can actually customize some of the settings. Now, due to the recent there was this security issue that happened. So now Zoom has made the default that you actually can put a passcode on meetings, as well as you can implement a waiting room setting for each and every one of your meetings, so that you do not have intruders or people that shouldn't be in the meeting joining the meeting. Now, it's entirely up to you, but what I usually find is that I remove the passcode and I remove the waiting rooms. But instead, I take some other measures, which I'll show you later on, because I find that when I set up a meeting and people need to put in passcodes, or they have to go into a waiting room, it kind of slows down the process of them joining the room. Sometimes people forget what the passcodes are, and sometimes you do not, because once you start the meeting, especially if you're doing it on your own, you do not notice that people are waiting in the waiting room unless you have a colleague or someone who is a partner that is helping you to manage, a co-host that's helping you to manage, and then they are able to kind of monitor for you. Now, so if you are a one-man show or one-man gig, right, or you are running the whole meeting by yourself, I generally find that for my use case, I find that removing the passcodes and removing the waiting room function is more useful for me. Now, of course, I also do not know that there is certain security issues that may happen, and I'll share with you how I deal with those even though I turn off these things here. Okay, so this is what you can do. So it's up to you. You can turn on a passcode, you can turn on a waiting room, but for my use case, I turn it off because I find that it's a lot easier to manage this way. Okay, now then up to you whether you want to leave the videos and settings. These are all very personal. And also the audio settings, whether you want them to dial in on telephone only, the computer audio, or both, right? And what I find most useful is this one here, okay, this section here. So meeting options, I will always enable mute participants upon entry, so that when people join in after we have started, they do not, because some people join with their microphones turned on, and sometimes that can, they are in a very noisy environment, and that can actually interfere with the learning environment for the people already in the meeting. So I always leave this on, okay? And another thing that I always would leave on is I always set it to automatically record the meeting in the cloud. Because too many times you hear of people who have done a meeting and they felt that it was a wonderful meeting, a wonderful session, and then they realize, I forgot to turn on the recording, right? I forgot to activate recording. And so in order for me to never have to face this problem, even though sometimes I start a meeting and I find that I have to edit the recording, so to speak, before I can put it out to the attendees, for example, I find that that is still a lot less of a hassle than forgetting to press the record button. Okay, so this is something that I would always do. I always turn on the setting for automatically record the meeting in the cloud. Okay, this is what I do. Okay, so this is one of the most important settings, these two, mute the participants and then automatically record. So I kind of walked you through the individualized meeting. So in Zoom, you can actually have multiple, you can set up multiple meetings, you can name it anyone you want, any kind of name you want, so that you can actually have certain kind of customized settings for each meeting. So that is another thing you can do. Okay. Now then I'm going to go through with you the main settings for under meetings. So basically it goes from top to down. So you can actually preset a lot of things. So this is a preset. So if you do this, the settings that you do here, it applies to all your other meetings as well. Okay. So for example, here by default, I do turn on the waiting room, but I go into each of the individual meetings and I customize them accordingly. Okay. So this is the waiting room is turned on by default. And then I also turn off, again, like I said, I turn off a passcode when scheduling new meetings because I do find that that slows down the process. Okay. I also turn off all these things, require a passcode for personal, I turn it off. Webinar passcode, I also turn it off. Require passcode, I turn it off as well. So all this about passcodes, I actually do turn it off. Okay. And then when I start a meeting, this is under the schedule meeting section. So when I start a meeting, so my suggestion is go through in your own Zoom background and your own Zoom back office and then look at every single one and then decide what you think is good for you. I'm just highlighting my use case and hopefully that helps you. Now, so I always set it such that host video is turned off whenever I start a meeting because I might still be preparing certain things. Okay, so I always turn it off. So I make sure I can have the option to turn on my video when I am ready. Okay, so this is something that you may want to set up as well. And then, of course, I always I set it that such that attendees' videos are turned on by default because when they join, you also want to see them, right? Okay. For the audio type, it's actually, I think is in these days it's actually easier for people if you set it to only computer audio. While they can actually dial in using a phone. Sometimes I find that, like the other day, there was an elderly gentleman who kind of told me that he actually had to incur overseas rates because he actually was doing an IDD or international call. So that might be something you want to avoid. So maybe you should set it as only computer audio for the attendees because if not, they'll be dialing an international. They could be dialing an international number. Okay. Now then, allow participants to join before host. That is up to you. Okay. Enable personal meeting ID, that's what we just walked through just now. Okay. So these are quite straightforward. Chatting, again, some simple features, some simple settings here, whether you want them to be available to chat with each other or not. Now, so when it comes to the security side of things, right? So remember there was a huge outcry because there were people who were of certain criminal elements that joined people's open meetings, and then they started to send screenshots or pictures or videos of very undesirable content, right? So what you can do here is you can actually turn off private chatting. That means nobody can send a private chat to someone else inside the meeting, especially if you're in a school context where you have kids and children. So if you have school children joining your meetings and then you have a third party outsider who has hijacked your meeting, if you turn it off, then they will not be able to send any messages privately to any of the participants. So this is something you can turn on and off, up to you, okay? And another one I like to turn off is the sound notification when someone joins or leaves. I find that a bit distracting, especially if I'm the presenter. So I normally would turn it off. But again, that's up to you. Some people do like to hear when people join or leave the meeting. For me, I find it distracting. Okay, the rest of it is not too much. Now, then this is very important. This is how I manage the security side. I allow myself to add co-host. So I have co-host during a meeting. Okay, I allow myself to add co-host. Now, for me, when I do a multi-person presentation, for me, the speakers or the co-host are the speakers. And only co-hosts can turn on and off their microphones and videos and share screens on their own accord. Now, of course, obviously, because when you have invited someone as a speaker, they would be an approved person, right? Therefore, they would be sharing correct content. So I don't have to worry that they'll be sharing undesirable content. And because I turn it on this way, nobody can join the meeting and share their screen and share a video or share content without my permission. So that is how I can take care of the security of the meeting. Okay, polling is up to you. This is also not too much here. So here, this is again how I control, even though I have no passcodes, even though I have no meeting rooms. So this is about screen sharing. Who can share? I set it to only the host. Okay, some people don't change this. They do not make a change here. They leave it as all participants. And if that's the case, then that is where all the previous outcry happened, because when people hijack or they just join your open meeting, then anyone can share, right? So because I turn it off, I make sure that only host and co-host can share, then I do not have this worry. Okay, I do not have this worry. So this is a very important setting that you should want to set, okay? The rest of the things are pretty much straightforward. It's really much up to you, okay? So just take a look at that and then you can decide what works for your use case, okay? I'm just talking about some of the things that are useful for me, for my use case, and also for how I manage security issues on my meetings. Now, the other one that is good here is if you want a higher quality meeting, then you need to activate the group HD. So you have to turn it on. Now, but for this particular setting, you need to kind of check with your account. Some accounts do have this turn on, some accounts do not have, depending on what is the account level that you have subscribed to. Okay, so some people may not be able to have this turn on. But if you do have that option or you have paid for that option, please remember to turn it on so that when your group videos turns up, it is actually in HD. Okay, virtual backgrounds up to you. Video filters. Some of the attendees do like to do a bit like a glamour shot of their video. So if that's what you want to do, you want to allow them. Of course, you can allow that. Okay. So the next one is about audio. So these two settings are pretty interesting, especially if you have invested time and money, like what we have here. For example, I make sure that I want to sound better. or if you happen to be, say, a piano teacher or music teacher or vocal teacher, and you are using Zoom to conduct your lessons, right? So this part about audio would actually be important for you. So one setting, for example, if you happen to be a band that you're performing over Zoom, you want to allow users to select stereo audio in your client setting. So you turn it on. So if they have stereo, then when you actually output in stereo, that means you mic your instruments and your everything in stereo, then they actually would be able to hear in stereo. Okay. The other important setting you need to turn on for audio is this one here, which is allow users to select original sound in their client settings. Okay. So original sound means whatever I am pushing out to Zoom is what you are hearing. If you don't turn on original sound, then what you're hearing is processed audio by Zoom. Okay, processed audio by Zoom. So when you allow them to turn on original sound, then they are only hearing your sound and unprocessed in as best a way as possible. So if you have invested in audio equipment and making sure that you sound good and so on, your instruments, your music, your microphones, etc., then you want to make sure you turn this setting on. If you do not turn it on, then your audience will only be hearing processed audio from Zoom. And that is not usually the ideal kind of sound. Okay? So that is one of the most important things you should pay attention to. And then here, allow live streaming meetings. This is where you can, like say, I mentioned a few times that I do use a platform called Restream. So you can actually key in the instructions here such that when somebody else sets up the meeting, they will be able to set up, they will be able to follow your instructions given here and then live stream the meetings as well. Okay. For me, I've set them up in the back end by default already. So I just need to click a button, it goes live. I do not need to put in the instructions here. So the rest of it is more for information and email. Email is again entirely up to you, whether you want to receive emails all the time when people join a meeting, start a meeting and all that. I find that a bit of a hassle, so I do turn them off. Okay, that is again up to you. And then the other parts of it here is pretty much quite standard, right? So just go over go and explore your settings if you have not done it. Read every one of them and decide for yourself what is the use case for you. Because some of the settings that I prefer to set might not be the ones that you prefer to set. For example, you may want to have a meeting room or waiting room. That is up to you. Now, I do have certain meetings where I do have a waiting room where, for example, let's say I'm supposed to have a discussion with two persons and one person is the lead and the other person is the person we're going to talk about or talk to, then a waiting room setting is pretty good because then the person who's the lead, I will have a quick chat with them first. I meet the person first while the other person is still in the waiting room. And once we are done with the discussion and we kind of know, okay, so what's the direction of the meeting going to be, then I admit the person in and then they have not listened to the earlier part of the discussion. So a waiting room can be very useful. Again, it's entirely up to what is your use case. Now, for me, I always believe you need to understand your use case and then you need to work with the platform to cater to your use case. Okay, so this is my use case and how I set it up. Okay, so that is the settings part. That is the settings part inside in the back office. I mean, when you log into the website of Zoom. Now, but there is something else you need to be aware of, which is you still need to change the settings on the Zoom app itself. For example, so I'm going to stop sharing here first. Hang on a minute. I need to turn on Zoom. I hope this has been useful for you. Sometimes in the past, we always talk about or joke about friends when you buy a new product or new item. Are you the type that will read all the instruction manual or are you the type that will just jump in and start using? I used to be more of the type that will really read the instruction manuals. I still do nowadays, but these days, because after a while of using products, all the products anyway, most of them are quite similar and straightforward. There's no real reason to read the manuals from page to page, unless you are trying to find something, a setting that you cannot find. Then I will go and reference the manual. Okay, so I've just started Zoom. Let me just share screen so you can see it. Hang on a minute. Yeah. So this is your Zoom. Okay, hang on. You cannot see it. Okay, so now you can see it. So this is the Zoom setup screen, right? So you have all these things I'm not going to go through with you. But most importantly, after you have done all that setup inside the Zoom platform, you then need to go into the settings here as well, okay? The gear icon here, okay? And then you notice that actually there are more settings, and this is from the app itself. Now, the rest, some of the things here, not that. So for example, if you do have a dual monitor setup, you can set up in a dual monitors arrangement. So I have two monitors. I have my own MacBook and as well as the external monitor. So I can actually have the display of the audience on one side and then the content on another side. So that's again up to you. Okay. So the rest of these settings here is entirely up to you. Just explore what you like to do. But I'm going to go through with you on the more important one. So the first one obviously would be video. Okay. So notice now you see two of me on the screen, right? So this is where you can control your video settings now, because I am using an external webcam. In this case, it's actually a external mirrorless camera, and it is connected via a capture card via USB. Therefore, you see USB video here. Now, when you drop down, you notice that these are all the available cameras that I can use on my platform or on my computer. Okay, so there's a USB, there's a FaceTime, this is the default webcam, right? Then this is for my iPhone camera. If I connect it, I can actually connect my iPhone as a webcam as well. And then this is the Prezi, which we kind of did a demo the other day. And of course, some other things here, okay? Now, of course, you may want to enable HD, and you also want to enable your original ratio. So do remember to, if you are using an external webcam, like what I'm doing now, you do also have to make sure you set up your external webcam correctly. The settings are quite straightforward. Make sure you output in HD. Make sure you're in a video mode, and make sure you're outputting in clean HDMI. So for example, some people, they forget to output in clean HDMI, and what happens is that on the video screen itself, you'll see the focusing bracket and some of the words as well around. That's what you call a not clean output. So for me, you can see that the video looks like a video. There's no focusing line and so on, right? Okay. And original ratio. Now, whether you want to mirror your video is up to you. I tend to not like to mirror my video, but regardless, because when you mirror a video, then you cannot see words in the correct. The words will not appear correct. So, for example, like right now, if you look at this shirt, the words will read correctly. If I have a shirt that has words, you will be able to see the words correctly. Okay, that's what it means. So this is something you can do. So for video part, that's about it. You can also make sure you turn off your video when joining. This is a repeat of the first setting just now, but it's also good to make sure it's turned on here. Of course, unless you are happy to have your video show up even though you're not ready. Okay, so that's a setting. Now, then audio. This is the important one. So audio, this is where you can set up what you want, right? So this is my speaker. I'm using a Bluetooth headset, and then this is my microphone, and I'm using something called a Rodecaster Pro, and I have some software running. So you can see that this is how you adjust your levels. So it should never be all the way to the end, otherwise you will clip. It should be a healthy 50% to 70% level, okay? And the settings here, you should change if you have an external microphone like this. Always uncheck the automatically adjust microphone volume, because you are going to control your volume on your own. You do not want Zoom to control for you, okay? And then the other thing here is, this is new. So some of you, if you look at this screen and it looks different from yours, it's because you may not have updated to the most recent or most updated Zoom version. So the new version, they have actually included certain new settings. So for example, this one, suppress background noise, you have to set it to, there's a few options here, low, medium, high, and auto. Now, so especially for people who have invested in a good setup, a good audio setup, and also for people who are doing live music, instructional music theory lessons and so on, right? You need to set it to low. Okay, need to set it to low. In fact, it's given here, it's actually mentioned here. Okay, select default noise to low to optimize for music. Okay, so this is the Zoom already gave you the instruction. So you need to go in and check these things. Okay. Then the rest of it here is also again up to you. Okay, but let's go to advanced. Again, very important. Echo cancellation. Okay, so you can't do anything here. You can only choose auto or aggressive, but now they have given you an option to disable echo cancellation. Now, because again, I have a setup, I do not need them to do echo cancellation for me. Therefore, I've disabled it. And I've also enabled high fidelity music mode. Okay. And the other thing that we talked about just now, so show in meeting option to enable original sound from microphone. Okay, show in meeting option to enable original sound from microphone. So when you start your Zoom meetings, you will notice that on the top left corner of the screen, it actually will say turn on original sound or turn off original sound. Now, it is kind of counterintuitive. Turn on means you turn on. But if you see the word turn off original sound and you click it, it becomes the Zoom sound again. So just be very careful. So you should see turn off original sound on the left of the Zoom screen. Now I cannot show you now because I am live streaming using Melon, right? So when you see turn off original sound, you are correct because that means your original sound is on. Okay, I know it's a bit counterintuitive. Especially if you have set up all this, you want to sound better, you have an external microphone, you have invested in some of these things, then that is what you need to do. Okay. Okay, so that's a quick run through of all the settings for Zoom that I have personally found useful and I have found suits my use case and also to maximize the use of Zoom. So for you, you may have to figure it out, right? Figure it out and see what is your use case, right? So hopefully this quick walkthrough has helped you and you can then make some adjustments for yourself. Now, especially if you have external microphones, external cameras, and so on, then the settings become more important for you. And of course, the other thing that is important is the security side of things. So we do not want people to, unauthorized personnel to hop onto our meetings during a Zoom presentation, whether is it for business or anything, and then they kind of mess up your presentation or they show undesirable elements to your attendees. So these are the things that you can set up, in terms of protecting your meeting. Okay. So hopefully the audio sync is all right because I think this was a very longer than usual presentation actually. Now I'm happy to announce tomorrow I have a guest. Tomorrow I have a guest. I have a good friend who is going to come online. He is actually a business coach. He is a coach on leadership. So tomorrow he's going to come on and I'm just going to do a quick interview with him. He shares some of his expertise about leadership, about coaching leaders and coaching people to become leaders. So please do join us tomorrow. Tell your friends about it, and I will also have other guests along the way. Now, if you're a friend, if we are friends, and I know all of you are wiser than me and smarter than me in so many ways, please don't be shy when I ask you to come on and be a guest. Share your knowledge with the world, share your knowledge and wisdom with the world so that everybody can benefit as well, right? And that's what I really want to do. So with that, I'm going to take you out with a bit of music and hopefully this quick walkthrough hopefully, firstly, hopefully Melon has solved the problem. The audio sync is okay. And secondly, hopefully, some of these things that we went through with you on Zoom has been beneficial for you. So I'm just going to take you out with a bit of music. This is day number 17 in the bag, and we have 83 more days to go. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, see, I have not adjusted that. It should be this one.